Esther has been saying, because every now and again she'll be on an airplane that is less than perfect in conditional terms. But she will say to herself, I am utterly comfortable. In other words, she focuses upon how good she feels right here, right now. As if to say to the universe, I no longer need you to yield idyllic conditions. I can have a good experience no matter what. The more general you are, the more you allow it. But once you've practiced being general enough that you've really got yourself in a place of allowing, then the more conscious you are, the more fun it is. The more you realize that you are creating your own reality. It's not so different than saying, how conscious should I be in the sculpting of the clay? We say, well, you could just take a big clump and throw it down, be all right. But it's ever so much more satisfying to mold it in the image of your intention. But let's take it further. What about just making peace with where you are? What about acknowledging that you're on the path and that you're never in a wrong place, and then just softly turn in the direction of what you want and give yourself a break. Give yourself the ease of acknowledging that it's no big deal and you don't have to do anything this red hot minute and that all really is well, and just sort of trust in the natural momentum of the path of least resistance taking you where you want to go. Try that for a little while and watch the ease that it brings to you and the faster results. Because a lot of people do this. They don't mean to. We've been talking about how every subject is really two subjects, and on one end of the stick, so to speak, is wanted, and on the other end is unwanted. But if what is unwanted is active enough that you translated it, so you're thinking about it. In other words, when you're standing there in that negative thought, that means there was a vibration that you translated into a thought and into an emotion. So there's already some momentum going, and attention to it will increase the momentum. So it's more a letting go of it. It's more reaching for the feeling rather than trying to change the thought to produce the feeling. Do you see what we're saying? This is the point that we're making. Alignment is alignment is alignment. And if some subjects get you there faster than others, then take the path of least resistance to get you there. Because when you're there, all subjects then are accommodated. That was big. Because the path of least resistance that you're upon, where does that path lead? Where does the path of least resistance lead? What's the goal of reaching for the path of least resistance right now? Where is it leading? To alignment. Not to weight loss, not to improve this, not to improve that, not to adjustments in physical conditions. It's leading to alignment, which then puts you in the place of receiving the impulses that cause the other to fill in. Say that several times in every day if you want to really do yourself a big favor. As you're moving along and you're reaching for better feeling thoughts and so forth, you're well along in what you've been hearing from us, and now you're integrating into your equation this path of least resistance and the unconditional aspect that we're talking about. Say to yourself, path of least resistance, and where does that lead? And then say, it leads to joy, it leads to happy, it leads to clarity, it leads to alignment. It leads to connection so that you know what you're reaching for, and then adore the instant manifestation of that you get. You feel that? That's good. And since you can't get it wrong and you never get it done, then there's no risk, there's no judgment, there's no harshness. It can't go so wrong at this stage of your understanding and your application of this. Here's the thing. This is why you can always trust your feelings. Because whatever it is that you've been living has caused you to create a vibrational version of it. And your source stands there and calls you toward that. So your path is clear. It's undeniable. There are no wrong choices. Well, these are the things that could go wrong with your awareness of your feelings, or with your feelings. Being unaware of what they are, so that a lot of momentum gets going before you are aware or make a different choice. Or, well, that's it. And we think what this conversation is really about is recognizing that this path of least resistance isn't about a behavior that you should always follow. It's about being loose and receptive in the moment and following the impulse. In other words, Esther's thinking about this a lot these days because through her life experience and through her time with Jerry and through their building of life together and through the building of their businesses together, there were principles that he lived by that he taught to Esther, sort of business equations that he repeated to her often, ways to behave in situations and conditions to hold in certain ways. He said things like, start it the way you want it to end up, and if you can't multiply it by 1,000, don't do it. And he had a lot of those things that served him well, that simplified life. So now Jerry makes this transition to non-physical, and so Esther is wanting to follow his lead and remembering so much of the wisdom that she learned from him. And so trying to hold to some of those principles that he established. Discovering, however, in her moving forward along her continual path of least resistance, that sometimes in holding to those principles that may have worked then, but are different in the way that she is feeling them now, that sometimes she can let go of that as she follows a louder calling. The way she first began translating that was by saying, oh, Jerry, I think I can hear you saying something different now. And he is saying something different now, like trust yourself and follow your own guidance, and like things are always working out and your impulses are on target, and don't worry so much about trying to get everything just right and enjoy the journey. And there are a whole lot of other things that he is saying that are not contradictory to what he said then. And so this is the piece that we are so interested in lighting up for you, and that is that the path of least resistance. Let's say that something happened and you felt an impulse and you did it and it worked out really well and you noticed it, and so you did it again and it worked out well again, and so you started affirming to yourself that when I do this under these conditions with these people, it turns out like this. Well, that's really nice, but it doesn't allow for the expansion in your desire, and it doesn't allow for the momentum along your way, and it doesn't allow for who you have become. You're confining yourself to what was and not allowing yourself to go to what will be or what really is. So let's go back to the piece that we were offering earlier about what if. Wouldn't it be nice if? Esther's finding those 4-second and 5-second and 6-second glimpses where all she is aware of, all that she is wanting is alignment, 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 trusting then that in her alignment, that law of attraction, which is always in motion, will then help her to dovetail with who is in her vicinity, who is up for whatever it is that she's up for. Rather than looking into the public and defining results that you like and then systematically trying to hook up with the specifics of those characteristics, instead trusting your guidance, coming into alignment, and trusting law of attraction to give you what you need when you need it all the way along the way. So much more freedom, so much more power, so much more timing, so much more deliberateness, so much more refreshing, so much faster, so much more energy moving. Rather than saying trust my feelings, because that's sort of loaded for you, let's say it in a different way. I want to be in the receptive mode. So let's talk about the evolution of thoughts to things. So there's a vibration of what you want, and it's really a powerful and active vibration. We are affirming that to you. We see the vibration of your vortex. There is so much power in that vibration. So here's this vibration, and your inner being, the source, more than we can describe, of non-physical cadre of energy and consciousness, is there in the vibration of that. So there it is, but it's a vibration not yet translatable by you, especially if you're not in the receptive mode. So here's the vibration, here's the vibration, here's the vibration, here's the vibration. So how are you going to put yourself in the vicinity of translating that vibration into something that's meaningful? Well, if you hit on the subject head on, you're going to activate all your concerns. So you're not going to be in the receptive mode. But if you do something fun, if you let yourself go, if you make lists of positive aspects, or if you're in the mode of appreciating, if you do those things that you know how to do that cause you to feel good, and then you allow the idea to come. You know that feeling when you say, oh, I got an idea. Or here's something. Oh, this just occurred to me. Well, ask yourself why. Why did that just occur to me? That just occurred to you because you were in the receptive mode and the vibration's been there and you translated the vibration into something tangible for you, because the thought that you translated it into and the subsequent emotion that came in response to it, those are manifestations too. We're going to call them first stage manifestations. There's really plenty of stages before you got to there, but it's a first stage manifestation, and if you can revel in that, then it'll flow and flow and flow and flow and flow. We don't want to say throw all caution to the wind, because that sounds a little bit to you like don't pay attention to your guidance. We want to say no longer be cautious. We want to say you're reaching for the vibration of fun, not the one of cautious. You're reaching for the vibration of clarity, not the one of warning. You want to get on the path, and where does the path lead? The path leads to alignment, and then the alignment leads to more and more and more and more. But the only thing that you ever have to be aware of is the path to alignment. And that alignment, and then all the energy, all the resources that you've been connected with, take care of everything. So there is a result that you seek, but you're not focused upon the result or the condition that you're seeking. Now you're following the path what? To alignment, path to alignment, path to clarity. And so since you're following the path to clarity and finding it on a really regular basis and sustaining it, now you're in a place of being in the receptive mode. And because you're in the receptive mode, you're receiving imagery of what is to come before it comes. So you're receiving, in a sense, imagery of the end place that you're seeking even before it is fleshed in, which just sort of makes it easier for you to maintain it in a longer period of time. But the thing that we really want you to hear, that receptive mode, Esther's in the receptive mode. So she's in the vicinity of that which we are, and we're offering a vibration, and she's receiving it and taking it into the physical, tangible analogies and verbiage. So a person that is experiencing the sight of imagination is doing that. They are in the vibrational vicinity, and the vibration is turning to thoughts, let's call imagination, really well-defined vibration. In other words, by the time it's something that's visual, there is plenty of momentum in it in order for you to translate it visually, yes? You want to get in the receptive mode, period. You don't want to control or conjure what you receive, because what you want is already well defined in your vortex. So if you're in the receptive mode, period, not messing up the receptive mode by trying to conjure or control it, then the ideas flow, and the ideas are on target, and that's following the path of least resistance. And that's the way you wish to live all of the days of your life. That's what you all came for. You came knowing that you couldn't get it wrong, and that the variety would inspire you, and that there would be a predecessor to all manifestation that would be vibrational in nature, and you knew that Source and all that Source means would be there tending it and holding the vibration of it, and that you knew that law of attraction would summon to it, and you wanted to be one of the cooperative components that was summoned. And then you got the biggest piece of all. You wanted to feel good. You cared about feeling good. And you found reasons to feel good. You set aside the conditions that you formerly thought you needed in order to feel good. And you just felt good for the sake of feeling good. Felt good for the sake of feeling good. And you discovered and nailed and practiced and honed and came to know the receptive mode until you began to receive anytime you wanted. So then life starts to feel like, oh, I think I would like that, and then ideas begin to flow about it. And you always know which is the path of least resistance. So you're always moving in sync with others, you see. And when it gets off a little, you say, oh, what's going on? And every single time you feel like something's gone wrong. What's gone wrong is you've focused upon a condition, and you've gone back to your old ways of trying to control the condition rather than doing the only thing that you are wanting to do, which is to get in and tend to your receiving mode.